Hey there, it's Kat and this is Brews and Reviews. Welcome to part 2 of my May 2020 wrap-up. Yeah, the impromptu part 2 because I read too much and talked too much. So let's continue where we left off. So the first 2 books I'm going to talk to you about at the same time because they're part of the same series. So I read Kings of the Wild, finally, and Bloody Rose by Nicholas Ames. And honestly, I love them both. I mean, it was a given that I was really gonna like Kings of the Wild because it's about grumpy old retired warrior men, and I'm a sucker for grumpy old warriors. I am. It's a personal flaw that I'm known to fall for those characters. So I found it really interesting. And I feel like it's a really great read if you enjoy fantasy and sort of poking fun at fantasy tropes. I really enjoyed the world that was built up, mostly around warriors and bands of warriors who go out and fight monsters and that sort of thing. I just really enjoyed being in the world and going with them on the journey that they take because it's like reunited old guys, and it was just a nice journey. I like the characters, they are strong, they all have personalities. So the quest that the warriors are reuniting for is to go and rescue the daughter of one of their band members. She's stuck in a fortress that is basically being attacked by a giant horde of monsters. And they're all gonna die in the fortress if nobody goes to save them. So they're basically trying to do the impossible. It's good, it's funny, I'm glad I finally read it. Bloody Rose. I think I like this one a little bit more than Kings of the Wild, but I liked it for different reasons. Kings of the Wild works if you are trying to go more for the fun fantasy that is poking fun at tropes. Bloody Rose is more of just a fantasy, and you see characters struggle with things. There's an FF relationship in this, which I really love. I loved it a lot. There's a lot of things that happen. There's a lot of character progression, and I just really liked Bloody Rose's band. I just love them both. This was a really good series. I had to read Bloody Rose straight after I read Kings of the Wild because I didn't want to leave the world. I also found it was really interesting to see, because there is a time jump between the first and the second book, how you see how society has moved on from where it used to be in the first book. I liked how it had evolved and people were starting to question things. I'd be really interested to see another book in this world. I really hope there will be more because I think there would be a shift after that, and I'm very intrigued. If you're wondering, I gave both of those 5 out of 5 stars. So as I'm going to discuss another series that I've been reading, I'm going to talk about all of these books at once and not go into too much detail because they're not the first books in the series. So I read books 5, 6, 7, and 8 in the East of West series. Now, if you haven't heard me talk about this, I'm rambling on a lot about it at the moment, and after these 4 installments, holy fucking shit! There is so much that happens. So this series is an alternate reality Earth where society has gone very different to what it is, and now it's the coming of the apocalypse. The horsemen have arrived. Death is on a very separate mission, and it's fucking awesome. And you know what? I just love it. So many things have happened. Nobody is safe. And there were instances in here where I teared up, and I was like, I don't want anything bad to happen to these people because I feel for them so much. There are so many people that I'm going to be so angry if they die. There was a moment in one of these books where I was like, no, don't you fucking dare. So, I won't tell you what because this is 5 to 8, but this is so fucking good. I was going to be able to finish them in June, but there was an error on the Amazon page, and it doesn't come out in June, it comes out in July. Amazon lied, and I'm very sad about it, because it means I can't read number 9, because it ends on a cliffhanger, and I'm not doing that to myself. So I've got to wait until July to finish this series off. I can do that. It's totally fine. And in case you were wondering, I gave every single one of those 5 out of 5 stars. It was so fucking good. Now, of course, we have to combat those 5-star books with some things that barely qualify for a star, so yeah, let's get into that. So I finally read Destined to Feel by Indigo Bloom. This is the sequel to Destined to Fly, which you may or may not remember from the Complaints with Cat video that I did a while ago. It's a terrible book. Terrible. And it made me very angry. I had a lot of problems with it. This is the direct sequel to it. Now, I have filmed a Complaints with Cat video about this book, but when I post these, I post them on you have to be 18 years old or over, because I do read some quotes out, and this is an erotica book, so I have to set that quite carefully. This book is so boring. Like, so boring. If you want to see me completely explode with how fucking dull this book is. I mean, the main character gets kidnapped at, like, the end of the last book, beginning of this book. And at one point, she is in an orgasm factory, and it's still boring. How do you make an orgasm factory boring? How do you do that? It's so dull. I was so bored. I'm not going to be picking up the next one. I can't. Do you want me to pick up the next one? Watch the Complaints with Kat when I put it up, and tell me if you want me to pick up the next one, because, like, God, it was so bad. It was so bad. I gave it 1 out of 5 stars. I almost fell asleep. And on to my next book from the Black Shelf Project, which I also gave 1 out of 5 stars. I'm really not having any luck with this project. I also filmed a Complaints with Cat video for this one, so 2 in a row, aren't you in luck? Anyway, the book is Sunkissed by Stephanie Ash. Now, this book, I thought, it might be fun. It's kind of summery. It's about a woman who goes to Crete on an archaeological dig, and, like, it sort of implies that there's going to be, like, a love triangle with her boss and this other guy, like a Greek guy that is on the dig as well. There isn't. Also, the back of this book does not mention the other main character of this book, because there are 2 main characters of this book, and it confused the fuck out of me. This book is a lot of sex scenes, but with nothing else happening. The 2 main characters are kind of assholes as well. There is a point in here where somebody has a lazy eye, and they make fun of him quite a lot, and I'm like, could you not? Because, like, don't be dicks. Again, I found this one kind of dull, but I do have opinions on various things that happen. So if you want to hear my opinions about instances in this one, including, but not limited to, having sex in a dig site after you've just been digging with your hands and then doing some fingering. 'Cause dirty hands, obviously that's where I want your dirty hands to be going. No. So if you want to hear my opinions on further things like that, I don't know. Complaints with Cat videos will be coming throughout this month. Maybe we all need to laugh at some stupid thing. After that, I read Grave Peril by Jim Butcher. This is the 3rd book in the Dresden Files. I was really interested in this book because I really like the Dresden Files. I like how the world is developing. I really enjoyed the last book where there was different types of werewolves that I was really interested in. This book centered on ghosts a little bit and vampires. And there were things that I found really interesting about it, but it just didn't quite hit the level of the 2nd book for me. The more I think about it, the more memorable it is, but there was something about it that didn't sort of grab my attention quite as much as the last one did. I think it was because there was a split focus between ghosts and vampires. Had we been focusing on one, then I think I might have gotten a little bit more connected to it. I also found there's a character that's introduced in this, and the way that he's introduced is like he was in the previous books, and I was like, no he wasn't. Who's this guy? Have I missed something? So that was a little bit of a weird introduction for me. Like, it was fine. Like, obviously I hadn't missed anything, but, like, it just felt a little bit weird how he was introduced. Overall, I quite liked it. It was good. It just landed at a 4 out of 5 stars for me rather than a 5, which the previous one was, I think. If it wasn't, I should have rated it 5 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read One Punch Man Volume 12. As this is Volume 12, I'm not going to tell you exactly what happens in this. I will say that I was really happy with the events of this book. I didn't particularly enjoy the previous volume because I thought it focused too much on side characters, or like characters that you didn't even know or wouldn't even recognize, and they were just sort of like cannon fodder characters to get beaten up. And in this book you actually had main characters, or at least side characters, that you knew and you actually care a little bit more about. I was more interested in this book than the previous one, even though Metal Bat was good in the last one. Besides the point, I am excited for what's going to happen in the next one because it definitely leaves it in an interesting place. And yeah, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And next up, I picked up a book called The Savage King by Michelle M. Pillow. Now, you might remember that name because I read a book about mermen from her before and it was very bad. It was not a good book. And Now this series is about a woman who was delivering brides to some alien planet that has like dragon shifters and cat shifters, but they like hate each other and they're like opposite sides of the thing. Anyway, she finds herself stranded on the island and she ends up in a sort of relationship for convenience with the guy that's going to be king of the werecats. And you know what? Surprisingly, I kind of liked it. Like, maybe it's because I read such shit black shelf books, but I don't know, I was kind of into it. I think it was because both of the characters were into it and they had like a sort of interesting dynamic. Now, I'm not saying that they were particularly well-developed characters or particularly good characters, but yeah, they had sexy times and their sexy times were fun sexy times, and you also kind of just got the feeling that like it was convenient for both of them to be in the arrangement that they were in, and they went with it. I also really enjoyed that the wider plot was not just them having sex. A lot of problems I have with erotica books is that they seem to be a bunch of sex scenes that someone went, oh, I'll just stitch a tiny bit of plot through and oh, that's fine, right? Well, this felt like it had a plot with sex bits, they just happened to be that because it made sense in the plot. And I appreciated that, so I'm not going to slate this book. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It was not terrible. So now we're back on form. The last 2 books that I'm going to be talking to you guys about, I gave 5 out of 5 stars, so we'll end on a high note. So I read and really loved The Carnian Fox by Kay MacLeod. So this book reminds me of Pokemon. Just going to put it out there now. If you like Pokemon, if you like Digimon, read this book. You will like it because the nostalgia, the feels are very real. I'll get into that in a moment. This book is set in a world where Mayamon, which are kind of like Pokemon and Digimon, they were created as part of a game. And then they became fashion accessories and everybody wanted one. People just didn't realise how many people were going to dump them in the wild. So Mayamon started breeding, they started becoming a threat to society, and the world changed. However, there are still people out there who want to battle and train Mayamon and have a team of Mayamon. So you follow the main character Sam as she starts out her adventure. She gets her first team member, a flame fox named Finn, who is the cutest, and I love him. Actually, let's be real, every single member of Sam's team they're so cute, I love them so much. There is one that has a psychic ability, and I will not ruin it, but she's great, I love it. Now, if you really love that nostalgic feel of starting out a new journey in Pokemon, when you've just got the game and you're just starting out and you go into your first city, then you will feel the feels in this book and continue to feel the feels much later on. Now, I will say that there are some things that happen in here that will not make you feel like Pokemon because they are sad. I felt some feelings that I wasn't expecting to feel, and this book made me cry, and I was like, okay, thanks for that. Mayamon aren't particularly nice. They'd be killing people, and other Mayamon don't necessarily just faint when they have a battle, so the feels. I really enjoyed this book. I cannot wait for the next one. There is a setup at the end of this book and I'm very intrigued by it. It's definitely well worth reading and I can't recommend it enough. And last but not least, I finally picked up a book that I have been putting off for a little while because I was a little bit worried that I wasn't gonna like it because I was like, the first book's okay, like it's good, but like not my favourite thing, not as good as everyone says it is, and I was a bit worried about how my opinions on this one would be. Anyway, the book's Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo, and I'm not crying, you're crying. Even though I knew what was going to happen, I still cried, and I cried at other bits in it as well, and I really liked it, and I wasn't expecting to like it so much. Now, I have identified why I like this more than the first book. It's because there's less of Kaz's point of view, and I'm not the biggest Kaz fan. I don't know what it is, I just don't connect with his voice very well. I don't know why. I also feel like other characters were developed more, like you get so much more Jess and you get so much more Wylan, and I loved them, they were cute. And Inej is a badass, and I feel like there were fewer flashbacks in this one, or the ones that were there I kind of cared a bit more about. I thought the situation in this one was better because it wasn't them trying to do a thing for a job, it was them trying to do a thing so they stayed alive, and it was way more involving than the first book. I definitely like this one a lot more. Yeah, it made me cry. I can't believe that the thing that happened that I was spoiled for still made me cry because it was just really emotional. I would definitely be up for reading another book in this series. There were some characters that appeared in here that I wasn't expecting to appear, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. So I guess I finally need to start reading King of Scars, because that's my next wish book. Anyway, this was really good. Glad I finally read it. Definitely given me a different opinion on the Six of Crows duology than I had before. I'd say if you were iffy-ish about the first one, maybe try reading this one because it felt different to me. I don't know, I just liked it more. If you've read any of these books, let me know what you thought of them. If you like this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!